Cambridge, and welcome to What's That About, where we answer your questions about the pressing issues of the day, brought to you by CCTV, Cambridge's best TV station.
You know, Max, you always say that, but it's also Cambridge's only TV station.
So that means it's the best, Julie, stagecraft. Anyway, whose question, delivered by the amazing U.S. Postal Service, are we answering today?
Our first question comes from Ava on Armory Street. Ava asks, with COVID rates shooting up again in Massachusetts, I'm concerned about voting on Election Day. How can I vote safely in Cambridge and still make sure my vote counts?
COVID rates are going up again?
Mm-hmm.
I was really looking forward to making out with a rando in the Cantab basement again soon. You know, like with serious tongue.
Ew, you should never do that ever.
Why not?
Let's bring in subject expert.
Special agent.
Desmond Pomeroy.
Hey guys.
Hi, Desmond.
Well, Eva raises a very good question. I've personally not left my basement in over 3 weeks, and frankly, I'm not leaving until this barrel of Snyder's extra crunchy pretzels runs out.
I love those pretzels.
Oh, they're perfect brain food, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're extremely nutritious.
I don't think pretzels have any nutritional value whatsoever. They're just carbohydrates. Also, they're very salty, so not great for your blood pressure.
I don't think that's true, Julie, but I guess there's no way to find out for certain, right? Tomato, tomato. Anyway, back to Eva's question. Luckily, the state of Massachusetts offers a lot of options. I mean, you can vote by mail, you can vote in person early at polling sites across Cambridge, or you can still vote on Election Day if you want.
Of course, if you do vote in person, for your safety and others, wear a mask. The city is taking precautions to make sure in-person polling sites are safe, like making sure they have proper ventilation and social distancing. Check the city website for locations and early voting times because some of the polling locations have changed.
Right. But for those of you who prefer to vote by mail, that's pretty easy too. If you haven't already requested a ballot, you can submit an application. But you should hurry up because the state recommends you apply by October 20th. What with the current uncertainty in the Postal Service.
You mean the foul criminal sabotage perpetrated against our beloved mail system by the disgusting toad-in-chief?
Right. Yeah, mail is a little slower than usual.
That's what I'm talking about.
But as long as you can get your ballot postmarked by Election Day, which is November 3rd, and it arrives at the counting site by November 6th, it counts. So best advice, make sure you mail it as early as possible.
Jerks.
Or better yet, you can hand deliver your ballot anytime up to November 3rd at 8 p.m. to the secure drop boxes set up at 6 locations across Cambridge. That way you're certain your vote can count.
I already voted, so I'm cool.
Nice.
That is cool, Max. That's great. But have you checked the status of your ballot?
What?
The status. Yeah, you can check your ballot status on trackmyballotema.com. That way you can see if it's been received and accepted.
It'll also tell you if your ballot was rejected because you signed it with a smiley face or something.
I didn't do that this time. Anyway, it says here it's pending, so I guess it's only because I dropped it off today.
Well, if it is rejected, the state will send you another one if there's time, or you could just vote in person if necessary.
Oh, I didn't know voting was so easy. There's a veritable cornucopia of voting methods available.
Yeah, there's a cornucopia. Yeah, you should be grateful you live in the state of Massachusetts. There, the governing party isn't doing everything they can to keep you from voting.
What are you talking about, Desmo?
Well, Max, old buddy, Republican state governments across the U.S. seems like they're making it not very easy for people to vote. It sort of seems like they're trying to keep people who they don't like from voting.
What about the constitutions?
I know, right? They seem to be kind of disregarding it. And they're targeting racial and ethnic minorities and college students because those people tend to vote Democratic.
How are they doing that?
Well, they're closing or understaffing polling locations in the cities and on campuses. Voters in Black neighborhoods are 74% more likely to have to wait 30 minutes or longer to vote than white voters. Already on the first day of early voting in 2020, voters in some Black Atlanta neighborhoods were waiting up to 8 hours to vote, while in the largely white section of Buckhead, the line was less than 30 minutes. Also, Republican governments in states like Wisconsin and Georgia have purged the voting rolls in urban districts, effectively blocking people from voting if they have a misspelling in their address, didn't vote in the last 2 elections, or other questionable reasons.
Exactly. And in Florida, they've basically instituted a Jim Crow poll tax and expellence in 2020. I mean, and then when the people of Florida overwhelmingly passed a referendum returning the rights to these expellents, the Republican State House quickly passed a law making it a crime for them to vote if they haven't paid all their financial debts to the state. I mean, this effectively suppressed voting rights for 92% of them.
Well, that's got to be unconstitutional, right?
I mean, you would think.
Yeah.
What? Ever since the Roberts Supreme Court tossed out the Voting Rights Act because he said there's no racism anymore.
That's really.
Well, there is, because there's zero federal oversight of voter suppression tactics. And when the rights groups like the ACLU try to sue, they're often denied by the huge pack of partisan judges appointed by the Trump administration in the past 4 years.
And in Texas and Ohio, they've removed ballot drop boxes in urban areas. The counties that include Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas only have 1 drop box each, which means like 1 box per 4 million plus people. Needless to say, these moves heavily disincentivize voting for people of color versus white people.
And not to mention in Texas, right? In Texas, you can vote with a handgun license, but not a college ID.
I thought Republicans say they love the Constitution. You think they'd be out there like repping democracy, like USA, vote, rah, rah, rah.
Not anymore. I mean, Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah on Twitter just said, and I quote, "We're not a democracy. Democracy isn't the objective. Liberty, peace, and prosperity are. We want the human condition to flourish. Rank democracy can thwart that."
Wait, what does he mean? Like democracy smells bad? Prosperity? Is that like an internet company?
Your guess is as good as mine, Max, my friend. Me, personally, I think the GOP is aware that the polls are showing the majority of the population is against them, so they're trying to justify staying in power by any means necessary.
What can we do to stop them? We gotta stop them.
Got to, and we can by voting. We can vote. We vote early. Make sure all your friends vote. If you don't get a ballot in the mail, vote in person. Vote early or on election day. Just make sure you have a plan to vote.
And make sure all your friends in other states vote. And sign up for Get Out the Vote efforts in those states. You can volunteer to call or write postcards to registered voters with organizations like postcardstovoters.org.
Yeah, that's a good call, Julie. You know what? I'm about to go vote right now.
Yeah.
Desmond, Pomeroy, O-U-T, out.
I like that guy. You know, I thought MTV and REM solved the voter registration issue back in 1992. Who's going to be the Michael Stipe of this generation, Julie? Who?
Who's Michael Stipe?
That's a problem with kids these days. They don't know their history. Well, thank you for your question, Eva from Amory Street. And until next week,
please don't say it.
We'll see you first. That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes and airplanes. Lenny Bruce is not afraid. It's the end.